guys, it's Holly here for PlayStation Access, and I saw today one game that I am so excited for, and of course, The Order 1886. I'm with Rue, the creator and founder of Ready at Dawn, and we're going to be talking about the game. So I think for me, I want to know how long you guys have been working on this, because the PlayStation 4 has not been here very long, but you guys have been working on this for quite a while.
Yes, we have. We actually worked on this, and when we say we worked on this, we didn't work on a game at the beginning, we worked on an IP. It was more important for us to build a world that made sense for us before we started working on a game. So we did start around 2006, and those were just, really stories that we were writing until we really, I was personally kind of delving into that just to make sure that I made sense of everything until 2009, 2010, when we started talking about gameplay really. The two were disassociated. We were trying to find out what kind of gameplay we wanted to do, and from there we started melding, and I started bringing the IP back into the gameplay where it started making sense. And it was in 2011 that we signed with Sony and really started on the project. It was January 2011, so about 3 years ago.
So the engine, of course, is going to be for PS4. So what is the PS4 engine allowing you to do that you have built as well yourselves?
Yeah.
What is it allowing you to do that you couldn't have done on PlayStation 3?
That's a really tricky question, because the more I see games coming on PS3 in the end of the cycle, you see amazing things being done on that platform. So definitely on a technical side, on the graphical side, there are things that we couldn't do. I mean, the thing for us that we really kind of held to was the fact that with the PS4, we're able to have this seamless transition between cinematics and gameplay and not lose anything at all between the two. More often than not, a lot of games have a tendency to do pre-rendered cinematics and move into gameplay. Suddenly, it's not really the same thing you see. It's close, but not quite there. For us, there is no disconnect between the two. What you see is what you get in both, and we showed the trailer at E3. We're showing more stuff right now, and it really is the same.
Yeah. What I saw earlier on, when you move from cutscene into game, the whole room just went, because there was nothing. It just looked just as beautiful.
Thank you.
So let's talk about The Order then. Who are The Order, and what's happening in the world when the game is set?
The Order are an ancient group of knights, actually, that very early on started protecting mankind, and they started protecting mankind from this struggle that's been going on for hundreds of years. Long time ago, more than a millennia ago, actually, the half-breeds, who are almost like a de-evolution of man, started appearing, and of course, as any species would do in nature, they fight for supremacy, they fight for survival, and that fight basically becomes a all-out war between humanity and the half-breeds. This goes on for hundreds of years until the knights step into play, and they become the protectors of humanity. And that fight keeps going, and the status quo start building around the Middle Ages. And it's only after the Industrial Revolution and this advancement in humanity, the change that we've had from agricultural society to industrial society, the inventions that happened in the late 19th century, all of those bring the fight the struggle that's been going on, and give the advantage to mankind. So mankind is finally able to really take the battle to the half-breeds.
Now, the gameplay style we say is neo-Victorian, or we're not saying steampunk. So let's explain what that means to you guys at Ready at Dawn, what neo-Victorian means, and how you have manipulated technologies as well to put them into the game, because we saw some amazing tech.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Actually, to tell you the truth, that's been one of the funnest things to do. Is really building this world out of reality with that twist of fiction. And that's everything we strive for. Everything has to be believable, but with that slight fiction that is in there that then puts it outside the realm of what could have happened. Neo-Victorian for us was really a way to coin a term that we needed for our world without calling it cyberpunk, steampunk, or anything like that, because all of those have already been defined so well. And there's some amazing games and movies being done in steampunk, in the steampunk genre. The problem for us is that we didn't want people to automatically assume steampunk was going to be what they've seen before. So we shied away from the term. There are some great things about it. But the reason why Neo-Victorian is there is because it's grounded in the Victorian reality, but it's New Victorian. So we try to stay truer to reality than most of these other genres would, where they steer more towards fantasy. And really, we did a lot of research. We did a lot of, reading and travel to London. We took a lot of reference to really build a London that would be believable, but to give enough stuff for people to dream about that they wouldn't expect.
Now, the order that we've seen so far has been 4 main characters. How will this work for the player? Will you get to pick which character you are and follow their journey through, or will you switch between?
In our game, actually, you'll be only able to play as Galahad. The reason why actually is that for a first game, and especially introducing an IP to the player, we did not want to dilute the message by basically having all these different storylines, having to meld into one single major story or major plot. For that reason, we stayed on Galahad. We tried to make Galahad the center point of everything that happened, but at the same time, there is a squad. There is a squad, and each of those characters have a big part to play in the whole storyline. What they bring to the story is not only that character traits, but also story twists that are going to keep on going throughout the game. But ultimately, it is Galahad that you want to meet, that you want to find out about, and that you really want to follow through this journey where he's going to become somebody that you will hopefully attach to and hopefully play further along, in the future.
In the future.
Yeah.
So obviously we've got the DualShock 4, which allows some new features. What will you guys be doing with the DualShock 4? Anything special?
Yeah, it's been fun actually. The DualShock 4, the fun part about it again is that Sony actually perfected technologies they already had before with the gyros that they had in the Move and the DualShock 3 that they had before. The gyro in the Move actually was really something that we played with a little bit, but then when we saw the DualShock 4, we realized that we could use it for multiple things. For example, in the game, we're using a few mechanics that would take advantage of the touchpad. We saw today in the gameplay demo there was the touchpad being used to basically send a Morse code. It was almost a natural thing. We didn't have to think twice about it and go okay, which button is it going to be on? It was, it's going to go on the main touchpad because it clicks and it feels like a Morse code. We're trying to leverage some of that, but the most important thing for us is always, the same drive that we have, that the immersion should be total. We don't want we don't want to force the player to do something that would take them away from the experience. So although there are a lot of things we could do, we're always going to rely on the fact that our first goal is always to the player, and the only person we need to satisfy is the player. And to make sure to do that, we need to also make sure that we don't impose design mechanics that that takes them out of the gameplay.
Talk about seamless gameplay. When we were seeing the gameplay demo, it was very clear screen. There weren't loads of different HUDs all around the place. Is that a decision you guys have made on purpose to make things seamless? And how will people be able to command everything from there?
Yeah, we did actually make it a strong driving factor to not have a big HUD. It's still something we're struggling with, to tell you the truth. It would be great to play a game, and some games do that so well with the HUD completely integrated. We wish we could, but again, that I think detaches you from the era as well. So we are trying to stay true to the era by doing the HUD in a way that it would be believable, like almost something that you could find in drawings being done back then. And at the same time, minimize it so that the player is not always reminded of the fact that this is a game. We want the HUD to be there for the purpose of, the game side of it, but not to make people feel like it's a game every single moment.
Okay, well, the final question then has to be combat. We saw some amazing cover-style third-person shooting going on. It's amazing, but it was when we got to the QTE, when we got to actually taking someone down in melee. Can you explain to us how you've worked that? Because it's always interesting to see how people take on the third-person genre, but add something new to combat,
Absolutely.
which is difficult.
Absolutely. It's actually very difficult. In the beginning, you always start with this dream of it's going to be 50% melee, 50% combat. It never is. It truly never is, because you're always going to have to rely on something a little bit more than the other to make sure that the core mechanics actually rely on something that is tried and true. What we did with a third-person shooter is that we tried to hold true to some of the things we loved about it and add other things that we loved about other genres. The melee, as you described, the fun part about it was to bring that QTE sense, but into a different atmosphere where you could engage in combat and suddenly be allowed be given the choice of doing different things with it. So for example, our QTEs sometimes will have branching where you might be able to fail one QTE and it doesn't mean that you fail the sequence. It just means that it goes on a different path. So that allows people to play the same exact sequence multiple different ways and see multiple different endings. And in the one that we showed today, again, you have the choice to do that. It's not just a question of failing the button. It's also a choice of choosing what you want to do. For example, in the last move, we showed the player grabbing the knife, or our hero grabbing the knife and killing the rebel. But in the game, you'll see that you have multiple choices. There are different ways to basically achieve the same goal. So it's fun. It's going to be fun to see people go like, oh, you know what? I tried this path. And another person will say, well, actually, I didn't see that. I saw this. But they still got through to the through the storyline.
It's all sounding absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for taking your time to talk to us.
Thank you.
We will definitely be covering more of the Order in the future because I'm super excited about it. Guys, you can stay tuned to PlayStation Access and don't forget to subscribe to make sure you don't miss anything from the world of PlayStation.